Okay, so I'm here with Roman, and we're going to just talk through it together. So let's have a look at what you sent me. So you sent me a structure, and we're working off the basic three-act structure as used by Sid Field and the Save the Cat guy, whoever that was. Okay, so tell me tell me what you thought the start was. I mean, I can read it, but
Once upon a time, there was a man who became a priest.
I guess so. Yeah. We could. I put. Yeah, so I put there was an inspiring priest in South America. I put as a pre-start thing a teaser opener, which the teaser opener, the first thing we see is the Pope tries to book a flight. Is that really the start of the film? Not really. It's a bit from later in the film that they added to try and make the start seem interesting, which is, popular technique. It's done all the time. One of my favourites is The American Beauty. They do that. They show a bit of video with the young girl saying, "My dad's such a jerk off," and the guy off camera says, "Do you want me to kill him for you?" And she goes, "Yeah," because it's something from later in the story, and they do it a lot in TV shows. Anyway, end of the first 10 minutes.
The Pope dies, a new one is being chosen.
Um, yeah, I mean, I put for the end of the first 10 minutes, black smoke, no Pope chosen. Because the Pope has died, they're choosing a new Pope, but at the 10-minute section, we get a mini chapter ending, as it were, which is the smoke, no Pope, ooh, drama, The inciting incident is often around 15 minutes. It often is the bridge between the two halves of Act One. It can be the opening moment. It can sort of float around, but I generally find that it comes in between the end of the first 10 and the end of the second 10. So, what did you get for the inciting incident?
His rival wins because he's too liberal.
Because he's too liberal.
His rival is more conservative. And
he is. Is that why he wins? I mean, maybe you're right.
It was an easy choice, as they said.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I put for the inciting incident, Ratzinger gets elected. Brackets, no reform. So yeah, actually, yes, it is what you were saying. There's going to be no reforms. What was the end of the second 10 minutes?
He requests his rival the Pope, to accept his resignation, and his rival wants him to take his place.
Yeah, I think that is what happens. I mean, I actually just put simply, he arrives at the Pope's summer residence, and I didn't go into the story stuff there. Just, we had this journey, and then now there he is. We're in a new location. And and then we get that story information that you just said. And I wonder, when they were structuring it, it's when you're structuring something, you sort of flip from the thematic story structure ideas to the physical things. It's a film. We've got to see man finds gun, man arrives on desert island, woman gets job, whatever. Or we have to see something physical, like, better expressed as saying, man is in boring hometown, moves to exciting city. Because, and the story, the struggle to get an apartment, the struggle to get a job, whatever, is there, but it's quite good to have these physical endings, Plot point one.
I wrote both his requests and his views are rejected by his rival. So he wants to retire, he's being rejected, and he explains his views on how the church should be.
Yeah. I think that's good that it's basically, I put Ratzinger and Jorge and Hopkins and Price disagree over reform and over child abuse. I don't, the final line is, I don't agree with anything you say. So it's, they disagree. But I think you're right to point out, I don't accept your resignation, But in a way, again, working structurally, to say, I don't accept your resignation, well, yeah, we need to write that in, but I think it's very important to say, there's going to be this clash. We don't agree. These guys meet, and the meeting fails. But yeah, I think it's quite good to find different ways of expressing the sort of the same thing, because for one writer, you get inspired by one way of thinking, and for another. And also for the audience picks up on a couple of different layers and levels. But I think so. Okay, we're into Act 2, Part 1. Starting at 30 minutes, ending at 60 minutes. So it's the second 30-minute section, the second 25%. And we break that in half with a bridge or a pinch. And it's usually some action which isn't so plotty, but is quite exciting, like a car chase, a sex scene, a fight. So what was their pinch or bridge?
I wrote like young, he did not want to be a priest.
I think that is the information that comes before the actual bridge moment, pinch moment.
Okay.
We get the flashback. So beginning of Act 2, it's that night. So there's a break in time from Act 1 to Act 2, from the day, and then it's that night. He's served this awful Bavarian dish, and the Pope doesn't want to talk to him. And then we get the flashback to Buenos Aires 1956, and we get his whole courtship. But I think the pinch bridge moment is and it occurs exactly at 45 minutes. He breaks off his engagement and decides to become a priest. So, because this film has got, I really enjoyed it, and I think, Hopkins is just a genius. But Act 1 was quite flashy. They were trying to make us, they were so afraid that the whole subject's boring. And they gave the film a real injustice with such a rubbish title, The Two Popes. Could they have thought of a more rubbish title? When you just name a film after the character or the place it's set, it's often because you don't know what your theme is. And I think the filmmakers had the same problem as the lead character. Guilt. They felt guilty. They felt guilty about their own theme, because part of their own rationale for making this film was to forgive the Catholic Church itself. And I don't think they wanted to talk about that was what their goal was. And so they tried to make it a bit silly and funny. Oh, the two popes. It sounds like a Monty Python sketch or something, I don't know. So yeah, the beginning of Act 2, the first half of it, the first half of Act 2, Part 1, is all a bit expositional. And then I met a girl. And then what did you do? Oh, then we went for a dance. You know, it's nicely shot and nicely done. And the young actor playing the young Jonathan Pryce was very charismatic. But yeah, I think it's the breaking off the engagement, because it's a moment of drama. But because it was told through a black and white flashback, it kind of, I don't know, damages the drama when you put things in inverted commas. But anyway, what's the halfway point?
Well, I wrote he's designated by, because in that part, they go from rivals to friends, right? They're rivals, and then they spend time together, they laugh, they have good time together, and then the Pope, his no friend, wants him to be the new Pope. So,
but the halfway point itself, that's the information that happens in that half of the thing. And we've got, again, the filmmakers were a bit in love with the fact that Anthony Hopkins can play piano, so we had too much piano. and trying to show them being fun. And he refuses again to accept the resignation letter. But the halfway point, think about it. If you were the actual filmmaker or the producer, and you've got to, what do you say to the crew? Where are they going to physically be? What are they doing? On what moment does the curtain close? I would think he leaves his summer home and returns to Rome. I put return to Rome, more scandal, Pope resigns. A point of no return is like the Pope resigns, I think. So the halfway point, often known as the point of no return, you've swum halfway across the ocean. It's as difficult to go on as it is to go back, so you might as well go on. So
he doesn't resign yet officially. If I'm not, because he resigned at the end of Act 2. I wrote it's later, like at minutes 100. He officially resigned and he talks to.
Oh well, that's his official.
The official one.
But isn't it? Doesn't he say I'm resigning or something? I'm sure he.
Yeah, he tells him like not officially.
Yeah, but I think once he's said that, then we wait for the actual official process. But that has set the thing in motion. I'm leaving the summer house. I'm no longer Pope. I'm out of here. So we get this. The beginning of the end is starting to happen. I'm just going to shut my door. But physically, we're at the end of the summer residence bit. So again, if you're structuring it, what do you tell your crew? You say, okay, guys, the halfway point in the script, we'll wrap up filming in this summer house and we're moving everything to the next. That it's sort of no mistake. It's no coincidence. That is a curtain closing bit. Pinch 2 or bridge 2.
It's again a flashback, and I wrote he collaborated with the evil power.
Yeah. Again, these flashbacks, they slow it all down. Whereas if the flashback to his engagement had happened here, and they'd just moved all the South American flashback stuff to here, I don't know, I think it might have been more compelling. It's having a flashback at the beginning of Act 2 just really kills the film.
Yeah, it makes it a lot slower.
Yeah, I think the filmmaker was really damaging his story. The strength of the film was having Hopkins and Price just film them performing a play. Because you've got, two of the greatest actors, certainly Hopkins, greatest actor Britain's ever produced. Well, there's loads of greatest actors Britain's ever produced, but he's one of them. Sort of just allow them to do their business, because trying to make the film more exciting and more funky than it is, I think damaged the narrative. It's not for everyone, this film. It's two old guys talking. And they don't even tell us what they're talking about. They whisper the main bits because the filmmaker's embarrassed about his own subject matter. But I put Pinch 2, 75 minutes, Bridge 2. I put Jonathan Pryce's failure, Jorge's failure, / the attack on the mission. There's an action sequence. I think that's when all the soldiers burst in and lead everyone off. Prior to that, we've had him trying to negotiate. Oh, you must close the mission. No, I cannot, or whatever. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, all this was accompanied by Anthony Hopkins saying, and then you tried to close the mission, did you? And then you see it in an enactment. Yes, I tried. This, having a voiceover saying, so tell me, isn't that when the people threatened you and called you a coward? Yes, it is. Terrible script writing, terrible. And Anthony Hopkins must have been so embarrassed, because I've never seen him do anything as embarrassing as that. Fortunately, he wasn't on camera. It was voice over. I partly think it was an attempt to make the film exciting, but the excitement is in the intrigue between these what was going on at the Vatican and who are these two men? What's their different points of view? Why is there a conflict? Plot point 2?
So plot point 2, I wrote it's at minutes 100, and it's the Pope who confess why he resigns, and he explained the story of priests molesting kids and so on. So I put it here because he really tells that he didn't do anything on this regard, and he just accepted it, and it's his confession to.
Yeah, it's could there be any more moment of truth than it's literally someone's confession of the truth? Sorry, no, we're getting confused here. No, I put that plot point 2 was Jonathan Pryce's confession, which is about 90 minutes, and Ratzinger forgives him. We get the second confession, arguably in Act 3, which follows then the Pope resigns.
Yeah, logically, yes, because the second confession is at minute 100.
Yeah, I think because all of Act 2 has basically been about Jonathan Pryce's character.
Yeah.
And the plot point 2 is Pryce confesses that I can't be Pope and I can't carry on my work because I did terrible things. I let people down. I caused these problems. I thought I was doing the right thing. And Ratzinger basically says, Anthony Hopkins basically says, you're only human, forgiveness, which is I think the main theme of this film in a way, which some might argue is like an apologist stance on. But these joyful attacks on Catholicism, which have been going on for the last 10 years, it's like, well, there's plenty of other religions we can point our fingers at. So I would say the moment of truth is actually 85 to 90, about 90 minutes. It's Jonathan Pryce's confession and Ratzinger forgiving him.
So where would we put the Anthony Hopkins confession then?
Well, it's tricky because we've got, I think, 3 sort of plot points. I think the problem is the lead character of this film is Jonathan Pryce, but he's not as interesting as Anthony Hopkins. We're not really waiting for Jonathan Pryce's story because it almost says, once upon a time there was a nice man who was nice. And at one point, while being nice, he felt bad about it. It's not very dramatic. Whereas Anthony Hopkins' story is, once upon a time there was a man we weren't too sure about, he maybe had a dodgy past, and, that's a problem in how it's been written. And I think your question, well, where do you put Anthony Hopkins' confession? I think the problem is they put in too much flashback, and they perhaps should have put Jonathan Pryce's confession at like a halfway point or something like this, or at the pinch 2 moment, because we're waiting for Ratzinger's confession. And so the film should have been shorter by 20 minutes at least. Go easy on those flashbacks. And make Hopkins's confession so if the halfway point had been Jonathan Pryce's confession, and then make Act 2 Part 2 shorter, make it 20 minutes, don't make it half an hour. So have a 20-minute Act 2 Part 2 and a 20-minute Act 3. I reduced the whole second half by 20 minutes. You could have then had Ratzinger's confession at 90 minutes. But yeah, as you say, it's not that dramatic when Jonathan Pryce gets forgiven, because we never really thought he was a bad guy anyway.
Yeah.
So I think Act 3 starts with pizza and Fanta, We launch into a bunch of more flashbacks killing the momentum. And then we get Ratzinger's confession, and I think it's in Act 3.
Okay.
So the climax, what's the climax?
The Pope renounces and he's elected.
Yeah, I mean, if you to choose one of those facts to be the climax, which of those two facts would you choose as a climax?
He's elected.
I think so. You know, because the climax often isn't the most. The climax is often just some fun and games. You know, the volcano blows up. It's the big wedding ceremony or whatever. You know, it's perhaps more dramatic that someone resigns. Well, it is. But I think for that feeling of climax, that feeling of euphoria, of something fab's happened, I think it's the election. Then we cut back to what was used as the teaser moment, the booking flights. And then what's the end?
Well, so I understand that the end and the inciting incidents are linked. So in the inciting incident, we say, I mean, he's not elected because he's too liberal. So there are no reforms.
Oh, I see.
At the end, there are reforms, and he reformed basically the whole game. I wrote, he doesn't want to wear the traditional clothes. He speaks openly to different countries. He travels and so on. So basically, I wrote like he reforms and they stay friends.
Yeah, I think it's. And what do we physically see for the ending? What did they shoot? What did they make the actors physically do? And what did we see?
Well, we see.
What are they doing?
We see both popes. I mean, we see them watching a game.
Yeah, they watch a football match, which is, you know, again. Sometimes it's good again to distinguish the physical action we're seeing with the story theme that we're learning. You know, we see the guy, he wants to dress in a simple way. The reason the problem with that as being an end is that that's not a transformation for him. He already was wearing the cheap shoes and didn't like the fuss. And his transformation to becoming that was to do with his guilt early on for letting down those people when they were massacred. So almost like we're seeing the transformation of Benedict, isn't that Ratzinger's Pope name? I think he's loosening up. You know, they're two nice guys. So yeah, they're watching football. And we get a shot of the real popes. So this mixture of documentary, which actually provided some good momentum at the start of the film. And then they almost they thought the pace of the film would be pushed forward by the flashbacks, but I don't think we needed it because I don't think like a lot of Batman fans or whatever are coming out to rent this one.